There is a blueprint inside you, etched long before your first memory, and its silent pull is why you're here right now. This isn't random scrolling. This is an answer to a question your soul has been whispering, a question your conscious mind hasn't yet learned how to ask. You're not just watching another video. You are standing at a threshold. On one side is the life you've been living, familiar, perhaps comfortable, but maybe tinged with a quiet sense of searching. On the other side is a deeper understanding of who you actually are, beneath the roles, the expectations, and the noise. The pioneering psychologist Carl Jung dedicated his life to mapping this inner territory. He proposed that we are each born with an inherent psychological structure, a unique pattern of perception and being. This is not about acquiring a new skill or a mystical power. It is about recognizing the operating system your psyche has been using all along. And what you are about to hear may connect dots in your life that have felt scattered for years, revealing a coherence that has been hidden in plain sight. Part 1. The genesis of your inner architecture. Where does this deep self originate? Jung challenged the idea of the mind as a tabula rasa, a blank slate. He saw it more as a tabula scripta, a slate already inscribed. Imagine your psyche as a unique seed. An acorn does not strive to become a pine tree. It contains the inherent, non-negotiable pattern of an oak. Your life's journey, then, is less about construction and more about revelation. It is the process of providing the right conditions, sunlight of experience, soil of challenge, water of emotion, for that innate pattern to unfold into its mature form. This core pattern includes what we might term your native gift, or your psychic orientation. It is the deepest stratum of your personality, the bedrock upon which everything else is built. We see hints of this in early childhood, before the world's demands layer over innate nature. Observe a group of very young children. One will naturally organize the toys, creating order from chaos. Another will be drawn to console a crying peer, their small hand offering comfort instinctively. Yet another will stare, mesmerized, at the movement of dust in a sunbeam, lost in a world of sensation and wonder. These are not merely random behaviors. From a Jungian perspective, they are the most authentic, unfiltered expressions of a lifelong psychological direction trying to make itself known. The environment does not create this direction. Rather, the environment becomes the arena in which this inner pattern seeks to express itself, to become real in the world. This leads us to one of Jung's most profound contributions, the collective unconscious. Think of your personal conscious mind as a well-lit room. Your personal unconscious is the basement beneath it, storing your forgotten memories and repressed experiences. But beneath that basement lies not bedrock, but an ocean, the collective unconscious. This is a transpersonal, shared reservoir of human experience, containing the archetypal patterns, primordial images, and psychological potentials common to all of humanity. It is the psychological inheritance of our species. From this ocean, we draw more than just our personal history. We may draw inclinations, intuitive leanings, and creative impulses that feel ancient, as if they have a life of their own. Modern science, through fields like epigenetics and the study of complex trauma, now hints at this transmission. The emotional landscapes of our ancestors, their triumphs, their fears, their adaptive strategies, can leave subtle imprints, not as detailed memories, but as predispositions, as sensitivities that shape how we meet the world. Therefore, your innate pattern might be the continuation of a family story. Perhaps there is a lineage of caregivers, of listeners, of quiet healers in your ancestry. Your natural ease in calming others, your ability to sit with difficult emotions without flinching, might not be a random personality trait. It might be the flame of a torch passed silently through generations, now carried in your hands. Conversely, and crucially, your pattern is often forged in the very places you have been wounded. Jung said, "The most intense conflicts, if overcome, leave behind a sense of security and calm that is not easily disturbed." A childhood marked by unpredictability might forge a psyche with exceptional observational skills, a radar for subtle shifts in mood and safety, a survival mechanism that later matures into profound interpersonal intuition or strategic thinking. The deepest roots of your strength often grow in the soil of your past fractures. This pattern is also organized around archetypes. These are not stereotypes or roles you play. They are fundamental, universal psychic forces within the collective unconscious. The primordial forms of the caregiver, the sage, the creator, the warrior, the explorer, the lover. You don't choose an archetype, you carry it. It acts as a gravitational center in your psyche, pulling your interests, your relationships, your crises, and your triumphs into its orbit. Have you always, since you can remember, been the one friends seek for advice? Does your mind naturally deconstruct problems to find the underlying system? Are you driven by a need to build, to make ideas tangible? These persistent, lifelong currents are clues to your archetypal core. The most common reason we miss this pattern is its very familiarity. It feels so natural, so much just you, that you assume it's universal. The person born with perfect pitch doesn't realize others hear music differently. Only when life presents a situation that demands this exact innate capacity do you have a moment of recognition. This is what I'm for. Until that moment, your gift remains invisible, precisely because it is woven into the fabric of your being. Part 2. The 4 portals of expression. So how does this inner architecture express itself in the day-to-day experience of a human life? It manifests through specific portals of perception and interaction. Jung was a scientist of the interior. He cataloged these not as paranormal events, but as natural functions of a psyche in dialogue with its depths. As we explore these 4 portals, practice inner listening. If a description causes a resonance, a flicker of memory, or a soft yes inside, don't brush it aside. That is your unconscious signaling. It's recognizing its own reflection. And if you feel that signal, consider letting me know with a like. It's a tangible way to honor that internal recognition. To say I see it too, portal 1. Intuitive intelligence, the knowing without data. This is the clearest signal from the deeper psyche. It is not a guess, not a hope, not a fear. It is a quiet, immediate, and often nonverbal knowing that arrives with a sense of certainty. You meet a potential business partner and feel a clear, physical sense of caution in your body, despite their impressive credentials. You choose a different route to work for no reason, avoiding a major delay you couldn't have known about. Jung saw intuition as a perceptual function that apprehends information directly from the unconscious, from the collective field, seeing the whole pattern before the logical, sequential mind can piece it together. It's less about thinking and more about seeing in the dark. Do you have a history of gut feelings that proved correct, of knowing who was on the phone before you answered? This is not superstition. It is the sage archetype within you, offering reports from the deeper intelligence of the psyche. Portal 2. Empathic resonance, feeling the unspoken field. This goes far beyond sympathy, I understand how you feel, or even compassion, I care that you feel. Empathy, in its Jungian sense, can be a form of perception, where you temporarily and partially merge with the emotional or energetic state of another person, an animal, or even a place. You walk into a home and feel a heavy stillness, a history of arguments absorbed by the walls. A friend texts you a simple hey, and you immediately sense the anxiety behind the word. Jung referred to this as participation mystique, a primitive identity with one's surroundings. For those with this as a dominant portal, it is a constant, often draining, flow of information. It requires learning to differentiate. Is this my sadness, or am I picking up on theirs? The gift here is the profound capacity to offer attuned presence, to make others feel profoundly felt and understood. It is the signature of the healer archetype. Portal 3. Symbolic dreaming, the nightly counsel. For some, the dream world is not a garbled replay of the day, but a vital, parallel reality rich with guidance. These are dreams of startling clarity, with coherent narratives, powerful recurring symbols, vehicles, houses, specific animals, or visits from figures that feel archetypal. You might dream of finding a key, of crossing a threshold, of receiving a book with important text. Jung called dreams the royal road to the unconscious. For individuals with this portal active, the unconscious is a prolific communicator. Dreams may solve creative problems, process complex emotions ahead of time, or offer symbolic warnings and encouragement. They are letters written in the native language of the soul. To dismiss them is to ignore a direct line to inner wisdom. This is the realm of the visionary or mystic archetype. Portal 4. Depth perception. Seeing the underlying pattern. This is the capacity to perceive the hidden dynamics, the structural forces, and the root causes at play in situations and systems. While others see the surface drama, the conflict, the business outcome, the social interaction, you see the psychological underpinnings, the power dynamics, the historical threads leading to this moment. You might be the one who identifies why a team keeps failing, not because of the stated reasons, but because of an unspoken rivalry. You might understand a friend's self-sabotaging behavior, not as a series of mistakes, but as the logical outcome of a childhood survival strategy. This perspective can feel isolating, as it sets you apart from the consensus reality. It is not about being judgmental, but about perceiving with X-ray vision. This is the hallmark of the analyst or the wise elder archetype. These portals are not exclusive. You may have one dominant and others as supporting players. Their common thread is that they operate outside of, and often faster than, conscious linear thought. They are your psyche's native languages. Recognizing which one you naturally speak is a monumental step towards self-understanding. Part 3. The awakening sequence, when your pattern stirs. Awareness is one thing. Activation is another. How do you know when this deep pattern is no longer content to be a silent partner, but is seeking to become a more active guide in your life? Jung believed the soul's awakening is rarely a single thunderclap. It is a sequence of gentle, persistent knocks on the door of your consciousness. Learning to recognize this sequence is crucial. Stage 1. The increase in signal strength. The first sign is often an amplification of your dominant portal. If intuition is your channel, you may experience a cascade of knowings that prove accurate. If empathy is your mode, you may feel overwhelmed in crowds, absorbing emotional static like a sponge. If dreaming is your path, your dreams may become so vivid they feel more real than waking life. This isn't you becoming weird, it's your internal volume being turned up. The unconscious is testing the connection, saying, "Are you listening now?" Stage 2. Synchronicity. The world starts to echo. This is one of Jung's most fascinating concepts, meaningful coincidence. When your inner world begins to align and activate, the outer world seems to reflect it in uncanny ways. You think of a long-lost friend, and they email you minutes later. You are wrestling with a dilemma about direction, and you see the same symbolic image. An owl, a fork in the road, in a movie, a book, and a billboard, all in one day. These are not mere coincidences to Jung. They are signs that the boundary between your psyche and the world is becoming more permeable, that you are participating in a field of meaning. They are confirmations that you are on the right path. Stage 3. Existential disquiet. The old skin becomes tight. This stage is often mistaken for depression or a quarter-life crisis. It is a deep, soul-level boredom or restlessness with a life that may look perfectly good on paper. Hobbies lose their luster. Career goals feel hollow. Social engagements feel like performances. This is not a disease. It is a necessary death. The old identity, the life built before you acknowledged this deeper pattern, begins to feel like a suit that no longer fits. The psyche is creating the friction required for you to molt, to shed what is no longer authentic to make room for what wants to emerge. It is profoundly uncomfortable and absolutely essential. Stage 4. The call to withdraw. The need for interiority. You may feel a strong pull to be alone, to retreat from the noise of the world. This isn't antisocial behavior. It is the psyche's demand for incubation. Just as a caterpillar needs the quiet of the chrysalis to transform, your psyche needs space to do its deep work of reorganization. This is a time for journaling, for walking in nature, for quiet contemplation, activities that allow the unconscious material to surface and be integrated. This awakening sequence can be disorienting. It can feel like you're losing your mind, when in fact, you are beginning to find your soul. And this is precisely when the guardians of the old order rise to challenge you. Part 4. The guardians at the gate. Fear, doubt, and the shadow. Here is the non-negotiable rule of psychological growth. No significant step toward wholeness is taken without meeting resistance. As your authentic pattern stirs, the first thing you will encounter is not support, but an internal defense system. Jung called this the shadow. Not an enemy, but the totality of the aspects of yourself that your conscious identity has deemed unacceptable, weak, or dangerous, and therefore repressed. When the light of awareness approaches, the shadow is what casts itself in front of the door. Guardian 1, the voice of doubt. This is the intellectualizing shadow. It immediately pathologizes your experience. You're just being overly sensitive. You're imagining things. This is just wishful thinking. It uses the language of rationality to dismiss the intelligence of the deeper psyche. It tries to convince you that your most profound hunches are merely neurological glitches. Guardian 2, the fear of alienation. This shadow weaponizes your deep need to belong. If you follow this intuition, people will think you're flaky. If you talk about that dream, they'll say you're weird. If you embrace your sensitivity, you'll be too much for people. This fear is often rooted in very real childhood experiences, where your authentic expressions were shamed or dismissed. The shadow uses this old pain to keep you conforming, to keep you palatable and safe within the tribe, even if the cost is your soul's truth. Guardian 3, the illusion of control. The conscious ego loves predictability. It wants a linear, manageable life. The processes of the deep psyche are non-linear, symbolic, and often surprising. Allowing intuition to guide a decision feels like surrendering control. Paying attention to dreams feels like letting a stranger drive. The shadow shouts, "You're losing it. Get back in the driver's seat." It prefers the safety of a known prison to the uncertainty of an authentic freedom. It is critical to understand that these guardians are not evil. They are parts of you that develop to protect a younger, more vulnerable self. Their tactics, doubt, fear, control, were survival mechanisms, but when their rule goes unchallenged, they become the jailers of your potential. The work is not to vanquish them, but to dialogue with them. To acknowledge their fear, "I see you are scared that if I change, I will be rejected." To thank them for their service, "You have worked hard to keep me safe." And then, with compassion and firmness, to step forward anyway. The fear doesn't necessarily disappear. You simply learn to hold its hand while walking past it toward what calls you. Part 5. The art of inner discernment, signal versus static. As you learn to move past the guardians, the inner world becomes richer, but also more complex. A crucial skill emerges: discernment. How do you distinguish the true voice of the deeper self from the endless chatter of the ego, the echoes of old wounds, or the absorbed emotions of others? Jung provided a simple, profound tool: the body and the quality of the feeling. Practice 1. Intuition. versus anxiety. Signal atmo feels calm, clear, and often comes as a single solid piece of information. It is neutral or gently pressing. It brings a sense of focus, not frenzy. Physical sensation, a relaxed gut, a sense of openness, a deep breath. Static anxiety feels frantic, repetitive, and breeds what-if scenarios. It is emotionally charged with fear. It creates mental loops with no resolution. Physical sensation, tight chest, knotted stomach, shallow breathing, muscle tension. The question, does this feeling bring me toward clarity and calm action, or into a spiral of fear and confusion? Practice 2. Empathic resonance versus emotional absorption. Signal allows you to perceive and understand another's emotional state while maintaining your own center. You feel with them, not as them. You can offer compassion from a stable place. Static, you lose your boundaries. You take on the other's emotion as your own and carry it away. You feel drained, burdened, and confused about what you're actually feeling. The question, did this emotion originate within me? Or did I feel it shift the moment I walked into this space or engaged with this person? Does it lift when I leave? Practice 3. Guiding dream versus processing dream. Signal has a memorable, often symbolic narrative. It leaves a lingering feeling, awe, curiosity, unease, or peace that stays with you for hours or days. It feels meaningful. Static, often a literal or garbled replay of the day's events and stresses. It feels chaotic, forgettable, and serves to clear the psychic cache. You wake feeling tired, not curious. The question, upon waking, does this dream feel like a message to be pondered, or simply mental clutter to be released? Discernment is a muscle built through quiet attention. It requires pausing, feeling into the body, and asking these quality control questions. Over time, you learn to trust the signal and release the static. Part 6. The Integration Protocol. 3 foundational practices. Understanding is empty without embodiment. How do you actively court this relationship with your deeper pattern? Here's a 3-part protocol. A practical guide to integration. Practice A. The unedited journal. Dialogue with the depths. This is not a diary of events. This is a tool for objectifying the unconscious. Each morning or evening, write for 10-15 minutes without stopping, without editing, without judgment. Let whatever arises flow onto the page. Fragments of dreams, fleeting emotions, random images, seemingly irrational fears. You are not writing literature. You are downloading raw psychic data. Over weeks and months, you will begin to see your personal mythology, your recurring symbols, and the voice of your deeper self emerge from the chaos. This practice builds a bridge between the conscious and unconscious minds. Practice B. Active imagination engaging the symbols. This is a more advanced, profoundly powerful Jungian technique. When a strong symbol, figure, or emotional state emerges from a dream or your journal, you consciously engage with it. In a quiet, meditative state, you might visualize that symbol. A locked chest, a wise animal, a shadowy figure, and begin a silent interior dialogue with it. Ask it questions. What do you represent? What do you have for me? Why have you appeared? The key is to let the symbol answer from its own perspective, not from your logical mind. Write down the exchange. This practice personifies aspects of your unconscious, allowing for direct communication and integration. It turns inner material from a haunting ghost into a conversational partner. Practice C. Sacred space and ritual. Honoring the process. The unconscious responds to respect and attention. Create a small, physical anchor for this work. A corner of a room, a shelf, a special notebook. You might light a candle when you journal, or place a found object. that holds symbolic meaning for you. These are not superstitions. They are psychological tools that signal to the unconscious. This time and this space are dedicated to you. I am serious about this relationship. Ritualizing the process dignifies it, moving it from a casual interest to a committed practice. Part 7. Living the Pattern. Jung's Principles for a Coherent Life. Finally, what is the point of all this inner work? It is not to become a withdrawn mystic, but to live a more coherent, resilient, and authentic life in the world. Jung's vision was of individuation, the lifelong process of integrating the conscious and unconscious, becoming the whole, unique individual you are inherently meant to be. This leads to guiding principles for living your pattern. Principle 1. Your gift is a responsibility, not an ornament. The capacities you uncover are not for personal aggrandizement. Intuition used to manipulate is corruption. Empathy used to control is manipulation. Depth perception used to condemn is judgment. When your gift is in service to the ego, it becomes a weapon. When it is in service to wholeness, your own and others, it becomes a form of love in action. It is a duty to use your unique perception wisely and ethically. Principle 2. Wholeness, not perfection. The goal is not to become a flawless, saintly being with no shadow. The goal is to integrate the shadow, to acknowledge your darkness, your pettiness, your fear, so that it no longer controls you from the basement. A whole person is conscious of their full range, not just the good parts. This integration brings a tremendous sense of solidity and realness. You are no longer trying to project an image. You are simply being a complex, authentic human. Principle 3. Meaning is the ultimate nourishment. Jung said the central neurosis of modern life is the loss of meaning. The individuation process is the ultimate meaning-making machine. As you align with your innate pattern, your life begins to feel like a myth you are living, not a series of random events. Challenges become initiations. Suffering becomes a teacher. Joys become celebrations of alignment. You stop asking what's the point, because you are actively living the point, the unfolding of your own unique existence. Principle 4. You illuminate simply by being real. Your greatest contribution to the world may not be a specific product or achievement. It may be the quality of your presence. A person living in alignment carries a certain quiet authority, a calm, a reliability. They become a mirror in which others can see their own potential for wholeness. By doing the hard work of becoming yourself, you give others unconscious permission to do the same. Your authenticity becomes a quiet light in the collective darkness. Conclusion. The return home. This journey has no final destination, because you are both the traveler and the path. What we've outlined here is not a quick fix, but a lifelong orientation, a turning of the compass needle inward, toward true north. It begins with the courage to believe that the quietest voice within you might be the most important one. It flourishes with the patience to sift signal from static, to welcome your shadows as lost parts of yourself, and to honor the symbols that rise from your depths. You were born whole. You were born with a unique pattern, a signature written into your soul. Life then taught you to forget it, to trade it for safety, approval, or simplicity. The journey of awakening is simply the journey of remembering, of recovering the map you've always carried. It asks for your attention, your honesty, and your courage. It does not promise ease, but it promises meaning. It does not promise you will never be afraid, but it promises you will no longer be led by fear. If anything you have heard today has stirred a memory, a hope, or a deep, resonant knowing, trust that. That is the seed stirring in the dark soil. Your only task is to provide the conditions for it to grow. Water it with attention. Give it the sunlight of your curiosity. Protect it from the frost of cynicism. And then, with time, you will witness the inevitable magnificent unfolding of what was always meant to be. You.